Benz. Nigga, where am I going? Drop the four in my cup, now I'm floating. I can't feel a thing, to be real, I just go through the motions. Where am I going? Nigga, I'm in deep like the ocean. I've been in my bag, everybody around me, I'm ghosting. Where am I going? Drop the four in my cup, now I'm floating. I can't feel a thing, to be real, I just go through the motions. Where am I going?
We are going to another episode of HardFoul Radio. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. It is Memorial Day. Excuse me. Hope everyone's having a good time out there. Yes, a later start, but it's Memorial Day. Nobody's trying to be up at 4 a.m. on Memorial Day. So, this is the show that values time and puts God first. Let's get into it. So, I said this last week, but I don't think I got the message across correctly. And there was a quote that specifically, when I was talking about the product of the NBA, and there was a quote that Adam Silver used that really was the one that made me go, okay, Adam, let's look at this. Adam said, he was on doing an interview, and he said he wants the NBA Finals to feel like the Super Bowl, where the Super Bowl, we all know, is this massive event that it doesn't matter if your finals teams or your Super Bowl teams are teams you root for. Everybody watches it. And people that don't watch football watch the Super Bowl. It is the biggest TV event in America, and it's not particularly close. Right? And Adam says, that's my dream, is I want the NBA Finals to feel like the Super Bowl. Okay. I get it. I don't know if it's realistic at this point, but I get it. And when I was talking about the product they put on the floor, and right now we'll start with the most controversial part of the product, which is all of the foul baiting, right? Let's take SGA is obviously at the forefront, but as I was talking to Tony yesterday, he says, you know, if you're going to say that about SGA, you have to keep that same kind of energy for players like Jalen Brunson, etc. And obviously prime James Harden, who was probably the worst of offender of all. And I said, you know what? You're right. So this, I'm going to use SGA's name in reference a lot here, but this applies to anyone with this kind of play style and why this is not a good product or a good source for the NBA. First, yes, the Super Bowl is exclusive to who you like as a team. Because by the time we get to the Super Bowl, you normally are watching teams that play football very, 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 very well. And that is what helps, because that product of football is something that we can all enjoy and go, damn, I wish my team could do that. So there's a little bit of envy that works in the Super Bowl's favor. These teams are so good, man, I wish my team was like that. I don't think anybody actively watching goes, man, I wish my team was like the Oklahoma City Thunder. And that's unfortunate, because the Thunder, as I said last week, despite Thunder fans wanting to go say mean things to me on the internet, the Thunder have done a lot correct. The Knicks have done a lot correct, another team that has that style of player. In the Knicks case, they have drafted well enough to get trade assets to put together this core group of guys who played together in college, plus just 5 high-quality starters, right? And it didn't feel unfair because it wasn't, this wasn't a big 3 scenario where they were bringing in superstars. They were just had 5 really quality NBA players. The Thunder did the process correctly. The Thunder tanked for several years, ended up trading for SGA, and said, we're just going to put you on a bunch of first-round draft picks, and now look at what they've got. Dort, both Williams, Chet Holmgren, obviously. SGA now is in his MVP form, which I've said multiple times he still deserved it. It's a regular season award. What they did in the regular season was historically dominant, right? So, but no one's looking at the Thunder or looking at the Knicks and being like, man, I wish that was my team. There was an envy when you saw, some of those Kobe Laker teams, whether it was him and Powell or him and Shaq. There was some envy when you saw how well the Spurs played. You might not have loved their play style. I know their ratings weren't great, but seeing Duncan, Ginobili, Parker, and then later Kawhi. And in the NFL, that's even put more on display because it's usually the best quarterbacks, usually some of the best coaches, and because of the scarcity of those two positions, it's like, man, I wish that was my team. I wish they had that guy as their quarterback. I wish they had that guy as their head coach. So the product doesn't even truly inspire envy like that out of other fans. Let's go with the second thing, and I feel like this has hurt it's weird. Analytics are used in all three sports and probably even hockey, but I don't know hockey well enough. When we talk about analytics in the NFL, when we talk about analytics in baseball, when we talk about analytics in basketball, even though they're used in all three, I feel like the impact is not anywhere near the same. The NFL, we know they're all using analytics and all these different metrics, but the core of the game is still physicality, good quarterback play, good coaching. You don't really feel that impact of analytics. Baseball swung so far the other way where because of the Tampa Bay Rays and Joe Madden, all these defensive shifts and what they were doing analytically, baseball actually said, hey, you're hurting our product because you're making the game, like you have figured it out. They basically waved the white flag and said, look, you figured this out. You have shown teams how to prevent runs at such a rate. It is a bad product for the viewing experience and the viewing audience. And they said, hey, we're going to take that away. And I get it. I was upset in the beginning because it felt like, this small market team that finally cracked the code. And it was like, well, now you can't do it. Right? In the NBA, analytics, what's the real representation of it are people. And this is insane to me. Analytics is almost a brand of people, and I say this with some amount of respect, a sports nerd. Now, this is from someone who is an actual nerd, so I'm not trying to use the term nerd offensively here. I just want to get the point across. It is almost represented by these group of people who have spent the last 10 years going, well, actually, the statistics say this. The numbers say this. Why do you watch the game then? If all you want to do is throw out numbers, why do you watch the game? Even one of the most glaring examples of analytics in a sport being represented by a person is Brian Kenny. Shout out to him. Brian Kenny he took a leap of faith in his career when he left ESPN to work for MLB Network, and he was the numbers guy. And that used to drive people crazy. And it felt like, and myself included when he first made the switch, it felt like for that first year of, well, are you watching the games or are you just reading off a stat sheet? Are you just reading off a scoreboard or a player's card? Now, Brian Kenny held his ground. Him and I forget the guy who wrote the book. I apologize, I'm blanking on his name. I know it starts with James. He wrote the book that started the analytic trend in baseball. But Brian Kenny stood his ground and continued to push back and define and showed and had proof that he was really watching these games and the numbers played out as they were. In the NBA, the analytic fans, the analytic guys, the stat nerds who just want to throw out number after number after number, you guys seem to be the most clueless when it comes to watching the game experience. It should not be insulting to say SGA is a foul merchant or SGA manipulates the whistle. First off, I'll give this to you guys, to the stat people out there. Yes, a lot of all-time greats have controlled the whistle. Okay. So if that was true, me saying SGA is controlling the whistle, being a foul merchant, wouldn't come off as such a negative to you. But it does, and that's because you know why. Watch the game. Just because you put up a graphic that says, well, he only shot 11 free throws and his team won by 15 points. So even if you removed all the free throws, his team would still win. Okay. This is how we're going to reduce sports conversations. Okay. And here's the other one. SGA has only attempted X amount of free throws this postseason. And that is I think the number at the time I saw it was the 406th most all time. Okay. Does that 406th most all time take into consideration how many games they played? Because the Thunder swept their first round opponent. Yes, they went 7 games, but 2 of the games they blew out Denver, so she didn't play the whole game. Did it take into consideration that the style in which he did it, which is the biggest, I don't know if it's just lost to people that want to read off numbers. There is a skill in drawing fouls. I 1000% agree with that. And that has been a part of NBA basketball since, go all the way back to, you could probably find Bill Russell and Bob Cousy doing it. There is a skill to controlling the whistle. There is a skill to drawing fouls, getting guys out of place. There's literally a rip-through move that has been taught to everyone who's played the game of basketball. And it is, but in essence, a foul move. If you are so close to me where my space is inhibited that I can just rip through, and if you're not in technical defense position, it's a foul. So that's taught to everybody. That is drastically different stylistically and the product on the court than SGA or Brunson or Harden in his prime, dribbling the ball, putting his head down, pushing the contact into the defender, and then flailing, flopping, making these really stupid faces, and then having to have stat nerds go on and defend them online. The game can't look different in this regard. I talked about the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl feels like the epitome of football in a lot of years and a lot of matchups. Like, these teams are so good at it. I remember the Chiefs-Niners. They were just better than everybody, just flat out. Mahomes, Kelsey, all the guys on San Francisco, Chris Jones, Andy Reid, Kyle Shanahan, they just looked better at it, right? And they weren't benefiting off of something. They were just better. That Chiefs team that played the Niners in both those Super Bowls looked different than the Chiefs team that we just got this year, which had, guess what, a favorable whistle. You see the difference, how it looks. And if it wasn't and here's the thing, refs, the refs shouldn't have an agenda. This should not be, oh, we want the entire playoffs to be physical, or we want the entire regular season to be soft. Just call the game. Because all fans really want, and this is the other big part of this product thing, we want consistency. We want to know. We're not going to understand the X's and O's. We're not going to stand the super intricate parts of basketball. We're not going to understand what some of these coaches or really intelligent players are thinking of. But the stuff that is easy to communicate to us, that allows us to enjoy the game, that allows us to be a part of the experience, make it look consistent so we at least know what the hell is going on, or at least to the most of our ability. When you watch an OKC game and you see SGA flopping around and get calls that are like, huh? And then you watch the Thunder play defense and you see them borderline mug people and Lou Dort play football. And I've said this really quick. I said this on group chat yesterday, and I'll say it here now. The Thunder are probably the best defensive team, this Thunder team, since the Detroit Pistons with Chauncey Billups. When they had Chauncey, Tayshaun Prince, Rasheed Wallace, Ben Wallace, like that team and this team, two of the best defensive teams we've seen this century. But it shouldn't look so drastically different what they're allowed to do on offense versus what they're allowed to do on defense versus how you have to defend them. And because of this style changeup, after Shea has already drawn a handful of fouls and you put guys in this position where it's like, okay, I can't touch him, he's walking into 17-footers and he's an elite NBA player, so of course he's going to hit them. So to the point of these stat guys who just want to say, oh, well, the free throws don't matter because the final score, they won by more than he shot free throws. That style of play dictated how you're allowed to play defense on him, and it restricts the momentum of what anyone is allowed to do. So no, it's not just a matter of he took 10 free throws, they win by 12, 11 free throws, they win by 13. It changes the entire discourse of the game. Notice, they weren't given, and I get it, home and away, there's always going to be some of that stuff. He's not getting those same kind of calls in Minnesota. Now, obviously, they're going to play today, but they got blown out by 40, and Shea wasn't allowed to just flop around. Totally changes the game. You're playing an entirely different sport. And let me address this last, and this is a little bit of team bias, but it's the best example I can think of. I'll give some love to Oklahoma City here. I think what Oklahoma City did against Jokic was smart. I think putting Caruso on Jokic, this is just one of those forever basketball things, even though it's probably also unfair. Putting Caruso on Jokic, I thought was really smart because little guys will always be able to foul bigger guys. and you're not going to call as many of them or as often. That's just a fact of life, right? Like if a kid hits you, you're not going to evaluate it the same as a adult hitting you. And not to call anybody in the NBA kids, but there's a big size difference between Alex Caruso and Nikola Jokic, right? So he's able to be more physical. He is able to be a little more aggressive. That I'm okay with. The other argument, though, that people have been saying is that, well, Shea drives the most. And that's why he gets the most free throws. Can I introduce you to Zion Williamson, who, for whatever reason, they don't like to call fouls for? Is it because he's too strong? Is it because he doesn't flop? What is it? I watched a series where, again, no one watches Pelicans games besides me, and I get that. But if you really want to know what the OKC experience looks like, go watch some Pelicans games. Because this is how I feel like the Pelicans whistle is almost every single game. When they attempt to play physical, it's fouls. But other teams are allowed to play physical with them. And I don't know if this is because of Zion or because they had Jonas, who's also one of the strongest guys in the league. They had Steven Adams before him. Drew Holiday, Herb Jones. Like, it's insane. And when it comes to the foul part on defense, say, oh, it's because they're great defenders. Herb Jones was the only guard to make first team All NBA last year. Herb Jones is one of the best, in my opinion, the best. Thompson and Lu Dort and these guys right now. Herb Jones is out this season. Herb Jones is the best perimeter defender in the game of basketball. And he does not get a whistle on defense that would suggest that. But Zion drives night in, night out, game in, game out, and does not get near the amount of calls or near the same style of whistle that Shea does. Why? Because he would score 40 points a game. He would score 40 points a game. And keep it on this and say, well, Zion's just bigger and stronger. Zion and SJ are basically the same height. Now, they have way different body types, but they're basically the same height. So, Adam Silver, if you want the NBA to get to a point where it could be like the Super Bowl, start addressing some of these. Hey, we're just not calling this foul anymore. Sorry, guys. If you're going to, which you claimed you were doing it on people that flopped the three-point line, and we've seen a decrease in that. But this style of just put your head down, run to the basket, fall over, let them fall. Because you stop rewarding them, they'll stop doing it. These guys aren't dumb. If they stop getting rewarded free throws and points and their scoring averages and their percentages go down, notice almost everybody in the playoffs, scoring average has gone down. They're more physical. They're allowing teams to play defense. Guess whose scoring average hasn't dropped? The two guys who they're allowing to still play this funny style of run, put your head down, trip, fall. And it just looks different, and fans can see that, and players can see that. Because, two other guys who averages actually went up. Go look at Jokic and Giannis' numbers. I know Giannis got smoked by the Pacers, and they just got blown out. But go look at what Giannis did. Go look at what Jokic did. That was, you can appreciate that greatness. That's not trying to control the whistle or flop all over the place. So if you want this product to eventually one day get to the level where the NFL has it, where these are events, not just watch your favorite team in the playoffs, stop encouraging some of this crap. And to the stat guys, watch a game. Don't just read off a bunch of box scores and tell me Colin Cowherd has a phrase, analytics over analytics. And I like analytics. I like analytics on 3 sports. I'm all for people getting smarter, learning creative things. But make it actually smart. Don't make it an actual analytic or an actual sign of your intellect. Don't make it an acting class. And a lot more to talk about when we come back over the break. Pacers, the Knicks get a game, Indiana, to go. Now the series 2-1 Indiana's favor. We got to talk about them. Some of the playoff physicality notes. It's Monday, so we got HardRight, HardLeft at the top of the hour, and much more. This is HardFoul Radio. Appreciate everybody as always. Tyrese Haliburton, who is a guy who I was never super high on or super crazy about, even when about 2 years ago he started to build up a lot of steam and momentum because of the 2010 games. Look, I'm wrong. If you want to go to pure basketball, right? There's been a lot of talk this season or this postseason on the internet about we're back in the too big era of basketball. And I've called all these people stupid because that's just basketball. Power forward and center have existed forever. Because we've had LeBron and Steph and this Warriors run, we have felt like, oh, everyone can play positionless basketball. Well, not everyone has LeBron James and Steph Curry and Draymond Green. So no, everyone can't play positionless basketball. Point guards, especially the old school point guard of let me run an offense. Let me get my guys into position. I know we love the scoring point guards. We love Ja. We love Russ. We love these guys who can get you 20 plus, 25 plus a night. Tyrese Haliburton is a true point guard. And as someone who grew up being such a big fan of Chris Paul, it is a disservice to him, and I'll say it, stupid on my part, for not ever acknowledging him or giving him the proper credit he deserved.
I mean, like, yeah, Luffy's on the ceiling, and we've established, like, something interesting One Piece has been established where we are in the final saga, and Luffy cannot get any stronger, potentially, unless something changes. So we're on the ceiling with him. He's capped out. So what can the other crew do? Like, we have a Holy Knight situation where we're assuming all the Holy Knights are Admiral level,
Yes.
right? And Luffy can handle them all, but that seems kind of lame.
So we all know there is with Sean Combs is in a criminal case, and Sean Combs is, by all accounts, a piece of shit, a horrible person, and has done some really awful things.
Horrible person.
Horrible fucking man. Like, by the end of this, put that nigga under like 3 prisons. Several people have been coming to testify.
Thanks.
One of said people that came to testify was one of Tony's favorite artists, Kid Cudi. Shout out to Kid Cudi, man. Great artist. Put out some great music in the world. Has done some great things. By all accounts, maybe a little weird, but seems like a really good person. Why are you laughing already? I mean, if you want to be a part of one of the coolest and most unique communities, don't forget to like and subscribe.
But that interaction with Summers, to me, was the first time seeing her be the assassin that we all know Robin is, and it was so refreshing. Like, Robin comes in, she's not in to, like, kill the guy. That's not really her plan. Her plan is to stop him. And if he dies, he dies, but, like, at the end of the day, I'm not stronger than him. I'm gonna cheat it. I'm gonna make a clone, and I'm going to do what you always do with a clone, which is I send my clone on a suicide adventure, because who cares? I just don't want the rest of the Straw Hats to get outclassed. Like I talk about all the time, like Frankie's one of my other favorite Straw Hats, and he doesn't take any L's because he doesn't really fight.
Start looking at your new stars. Look at your Anthony Edwards, dynamic, now a great shooter, led the NBA in 3-point field goal percentage. Tyrese Haliburton, maybe the best pure point guard in the sport that we've seen since Chris Paul, in terms of how he can run an offense. He can have an impact without, maybe the only star who can have a true impact on a game without giving you 20 points. SGA led the NBA in scoring, back-to-back 1 seeds on a team that has enough talent to truly be a dynasty-level team in the Oklahoma City Thunder. And of course, Jalen Brunson, for if you grew up when I did and you're around my age, for all the talk about the New York Knicks, and it's a historic franchise, but they've never been great. They've been good. They had the couple years with Melo and Amari, and that was exciting. But Jalen Brunson getting the Knicks to the Eastern Conference Finals and potentially the NBA Finals, we now have a great basketball team in New York. Tyrese Haliburton, who is a guy who I was never super high on or super crazy about, even when about 2 years ago he started to build up a lot of steam and momentum because of the 2010 games. Look, I'm wrong. If you want to go to pure basketball, right? There's been a lot of talk this season or this postseason on the internet about we're back in the too big era of basketball. And I've called all these people stupid because that's just basketball. Power forward and center have existed forever. Because we've had LeBron and Steph and this Warriors run, we have felt like, oh, everyone can play positionless basketball. Well, not everyone has LeBron James and Steph Curry and Draymond Green. So no, everyone can't play positionless basketball. Point guards, especially the old school point guard of Let me run an offense. Let me get my guys into position. I know we love the scoring point guards. We love Jaw. We love Russ. We love these guys who can get you 20 plus, 25 plus a night. Tyrese Haliburton is a true point guard. And as someone who grew up being such a big fan of Chris Paul, it is a disservice to him, and I'll say it, stupid on my part, for not ever acknowledging. And we are back. This is HardFoul Radio. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. So, the Knicks win Game 3 last night in Indiana, which is, I guess, par for the course. This is just what Indiana does. They beat you in 5, and so they got to lose 1. And because they've been winning, they won both home games in Cleveland, and then all 3 home games in Cleveland. And they won both home games in New York. This is just par for the course, so I still think Indiana's going to win the series. But it did bring up something interesting last night, and that is when it's not working anymore in a basketball game. And this is somewhat true in baseball and football, but it's really basketball. There's nothing like it. When guys just aren't hitting shots, when the offense isn't working, when the defensive scheme, and when flat out guys are tired at the end of games. That's when it's time for superstars to be superstars. Anybody can score. They talked about the broadcast a lot last night where they're like, man, the offense just seems to be slowing down. Man, the offense just, it's not going anywhere. It was basically give the ball to Pascal Siakam and see if he could score. Otherwise, the Pacers they just weren't good on offense pretty much the whole back end of the fourth quarter. This is where superstars step up. Because for the Knicks, Jalen Brunson was in foul trouble, and so Karl Anthony Towns, who had 20-plus points in the fourth, he was the guy. And he should be. Karl Anthony Towns is an extremely talented player. We've known that forever. He used to dominate those. They would put out who would you start a franchise with, and for like 3 or 4 years straight, it was Karl Anthony Towns, because we saw the skill, you saw the size, you saw the ability, and last night it all came together. That's probably the Pacers' one true flaw when it comes to them versus these other 3 teams. The Pacers are a really, really good basketball team. And I think what Stephen A., and I'm not trying to give this man too much credit, but Stephen A. said something that I thought was smart. And that was, to me, Tyrese Haliburton is not a superstar. This is to him. To him, Tyrese Haliburton is not a superstar. And I agree with him. And last night made that feel even more real. When you say superstar, you're not just talking about the all-time greats who are obviously superstars. You're talking about even currently. Like, Cat right now is a superstar, in my opinion. He is the best big man on the New York Knicks. Probably the best big they've had since Patrick Ewing. I'm sorry to Amari Stoudemire. I think Karl Anthony Towns is better. He is a guy, he could be a superstar level. Maybe you need more consistency to fully commit to that. Fine, I get that logic too. But when it's time to take over the game, the Wolves have Anthony Edwards. The Thunder have SGA and a whistle. Sorry. The Knicks have both Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. And the Pacers, that's not really Haliburton's game. And I know that's going to sound, again, I'm against all the stat nerds today. I know what Tyrese Haliburton's numbers say when it comes to him taking shots in the clutch. He's 10 of 11 or 11 of 12 now. I get that. That doesn't mean he's the guy you want initiating your offense and trying to get that last shot. Or when nobody else has it going, because he's a true point guard, he kind of needs the ball to be moving around, other guys to be involved, because he's not going to just break you down, hit a 30-foot. Like, that's not his game. He's not this super dominant ISO player. Or someone like Karl Anthony Towns who can get the ball in the mid-post and go to work. Siakam last night showed he might actually be the better fourth quarter option because he can get the ball mid-post or all the way down on the post, and he's got some good moves. He's got a mid-range jump shot that you have to respect. He was their primary offense in the fourth quarter. Like, the Pacers have a lot of guys. Nesmith, McDonald was playing great last night. Now, Ben Mathurin's had not a great Eastern Conference Finals. I thought Reg was a little harsh. He said he's had a horrible one. I don't think he's been horrible, but obviously not as good as he was in the earlier rounds. They have a bunch of guys, and because of the way Tyrese Haliburton plays, that's been really, really good for them. But when it comes down to these crunch time moments, to these, you gotta have a score, You can't just run your basic offense. You need take even their coach, for example, right? What is Rick Carlisle's most famous playoff run? It's obviously the 2011 Mavs. And the Mavs had Jason Kidd, one of the greatest point guards, one of the greatest offensive conductors in the history of the game of basketball. What did they do all postseason when shit stopped working? When you couldn't run regular offense, when the defense is being extra physical, you go, we have Dirk Nowitzki. We're going to hand him the ball, and he's mid to mid-range, and we're going to let him be our offense. And that's what superstars do. That's what great players do. Just hand me the ball, get out of my way. And that's the only thing the Pacers are missing before me willing to, like, obviously I was wrong on them in terms of how far they've gotten to this point, but it's really the only thing I feel like they're missing for me to take that next step and say, oh yeah, you should clearly be the favorites. Because, and Tony's hit this team out of the park in terms of how he analyzed them. They keep running, they keep shooting, they keep going, and it really is, Jalen Brunson said last night, no lead is safe. And that's true, because both these teams are going to keep going. And the Pacers are going to have to hope attrition wins out because Thibodeau plays his guys major minutes. Although the last 2 games, we're seeing a slight change in that. But Thibodeau's career reputation is, I'm going to play these guys a bunch of minutes. So by the time we're in the fourth quarter, my guys are going to be on minutes 42, 43, 44. The Pacer players are going to be on minutes 36, 37, 38. And that makes a difference in the long run. And maybe that'll still work out. And attrition is how they're going to beat the Knicks. And if they get to the finals, maybe that's how they would beat a team like the Timberwolves or the Thunder, even though the Thunder could probably match them with depth. But that's how this team has to win. They don't have a Karl Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson, SGA, Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle even's put himself in that conversation the way he's playing right now. A guy you could just give the ball to. He can go get you a bucket. He doesn't care what's going on. Like, he can just score. They don't have that as things currently constructed. And that might be their only true weakness. Because I like their coach. I like their players. I like their depth. I was wrong as hell on them to start the playoffs. But it's fine. I can admit that I'm wrong. It's not a big deal. But what I've seen from how they've played, it's what makes them so good against a team like Milwaukee, who just didn't have enough after Giannis. Or a team like Cleveland, who had good depth, but not also... who didn't have enough high-end talent to really compete with them, and they would just run both those teams out the building. And that was with Cleveland, by the way, who has Donovan Mitchell, who I have a much higher opinion of Donovan Mitchell than I think most of the public does. So that's probably the only thing the Pacers are missing. Now, this is a new quick segment we're trying out here. I was going to have a graphic ready for today. It should be ready for tomorrow. But it takes terrible enough for Twitter. And it is essentially how it'll work. I'm going to say something. I'm going to try to do it with a lack of judgment. This is a peaceful place. Sometimes. Peaceful place, lack of judgment. I am simply going to give out an opinion. Or not opinion, sorry. I'm going to repeat somebody else's take in which they said. And maybe the namesake terrible enough for Twitter is because we all know the kind of takes that go off on Twitter. And these, I think, are either not just terrible, but I think they're very lazy. And I think as the world has evolved into sports media's 24/7, it's very easy to give a lazy take. And so, but I'm not going to name, again, you might already know who it is, but I'm not going to give out names. What I will do, however, though, I'm going to say it pretty much word for word how they said it. If they used, in my opinion, they inflected their voice, stuff like that, I'm going to do it. Not just to copy, but, you know, some of it's going to be, I watch a lot of, despite what I should, I watch a lot of ESPN, I watch a lot of FS1, and I go on the internet a lot looking up different things, right? And I read a bunch of different columns. I go to PFF. I go to The Ringer. So I take a lot of this stuff in, and I just want to start, you know, giving some of this back, right? Like, why just hold all of this information in? So, in my opinion, a take terrible enough for Twitter. And for this one, it is written, so I need to make sure that I read it correctly. This was somebody talking about ranking quarterbacks. Now, I'm a little biased, but I think this is just outrageous where they had him. So this is tier 4. Young players. They were tiering off quarterbacks, right? And it was young players with a wide range of potential outcomes. And I'll explain why I think this take is terrible. But let me give you the word for it first. Bo Nix, who they have rated 19th best quarterback in the NFL. Nix had a strong rookie season, though it was somewhat overshadowed by Jaden Daniels' historic campaign. If he can avoid the dreaded sophomore slump, the Broncos could be a serious threat in 2025. After a rocky start, including 3 sub-50 grades in his first 4 outings, Nix found his footing, posting an 85.7 overall grade the rest of the way, the 6th best in the league over that span. Now, at face value, that shouldn't be terrible, right? Like, Bo is, as much as I love Bo still needs another season before he's in the top half of quarterbacks in the NFL. I probably right now would have him closer to 15, 16, but I understand. But I also would probably have Jaden Daniels. I think I did have Jaden Daniels in my top 10 when we did our list, and that's because I believe he's going to be that. Here's why I think this take is terrible. The quarterbacks that are around him in the same tier from this article: Bryce Young, J.J. McCarthy, Drake May, Michael Penix Jr. If the idea is this is just draft bias. And it's really frustrating as a fan the amount of draft bias Bo goes through, because Bo objectively had a better season than both Bryce Young and Drake May, who got the most playing time. McCarthy didn't play at all, and Penix played 3 games. You can't put him in the same category as 2 guys he clearly outplayed, especially the back half of the season. Again, they just said he was 6th in the league post his first 5 games. So I could be a top 10 quarterback for well over half the season, and I'm still thrown in the young quarterback with a wide range of potential, because we're going to – the Mac Jones comparisons need to stop. The Mac Jones comparisons just need to stop. Bo Nix and Mac Jones could not be more different. But because there is this draft bias against him because he was the 6th guy taken, and when have we ever seen the 6th quarterback in an NFL draft ever taken be successful? I'm sorry, I shouldn't do that. I hate when people make Brady comparisons. My point is here, stop throwing the people did this, and I'm not saying Bo is Lamar Jackson. I don't believe that. I don't think Bo's ever going to be that player or that level of player. I think Bo's just going to be really, really good. Lamar is a multiple-time MVP, a Hall of Famer. I think Bo's just going to be a very, very good quarterback. Lamar had the same issue, though, when he came into the league, because there was so much people threw on his draft evaluation and were just flat out wrong. They never wanted to backtrack it. Now, again, and Bo, a lot of his success, I'll be real, is probably going to be the same way Purdy has a lot of success, and Purdy just signed a $250 million deal, and everybody knows how I feel about him. I think Bo is physically, he's a little bit stronger. I think he's got a better arm, and he runs better than Purdy. But a lot of Purdy's success is going to be because he has Shanahan as his head coach, and that's fine. Take advantage of that. And a lot of Bo's success is going to be attached to he has Sean Payton as a head coach. That's fine. Take advantage of that. But don't put him in the same class as a bunch of other quarterbacks who either A, haven't played, or B, he was just flat out better than. It's not even a Team Thursday yet, and I'm already upset. Oh, man. So much to talk about today. This is HardFoul Radio. We'll be back momentarily. And we are back. This is HardFoul Radio. So, something to the physicality of it all in the NBA playoffs. This will be pretty quick here before we get ready for hour 2 and HardLeft, HardRight at the top of the next hour. This playoffs, we all know, take away my kind of opening rant about how the Thunder are officiated. We all agree there's been a lot more physicality in these playoffs. And scoring averages have dropped, et cetera, et cetera. This playoff should be the ultimate example of why normally when you have a really strong opinion and an argument and you essentially build teams off of said argument and opinion, is that normally you go too far, right? Look at politics. You start with a couple core ideas, then everybody kind of builds their team, and now the two teams don't want to agree on anything. And a lot of times the answer is somewhere in the middle. Like, okay, they've got some good ideas. The correct answer is probably somewhere in the middle. This is why all the old NBA players say, oh, you guys couldn't do this in our era. Yes, the NBA is more skilled than it's ever been. And that's what the new generation of fans love to talk about. It's more skilled. They would just kill you guys. You guys couldn't dribble with your left hand. Oh my gosh, this, that, and the third. But the reality is, we're seeing a lot of guys how their game translates, as skilled as it is, when there's allowed for physicality. When there's literally, like the Thunder are hand-checking people. Like, just call it what it is. The Thunder are hand-checking people, which was illegal and is illegal. But regardless, I like the ability to play defense. So, if you are allowed to play defense in that way, you're allowed to be extra physical, you're seeing what it's doing to all these guys who were scoring 25 in the regular season. Now they're down to 20. The 20-point scorers are now down into the teens. The 30-point scorers are now down into the 20. Like, yes, you have your exceptions. Jokic and Giannis, so great. They're going to put up their numbers no matter what kind of defense, no matter what era. This conversation was always stupid in comparison to LeBron. LeBron would still be LeBron. We get that. But the pace, the physicality inherently brings down the pace, because the only team that's really running is the Pacers. Get it? Pacers. It's almost like the script writes itself. So the physicality is inherently bringing down the pace, because guys just don't want to run for 35, 40 minutes if they know they're getting hand checked, they know they're getting bumped, they know teams are being physical, they know guys are being aggressive, all the stuff that's going on. That inherently is going to bring down the pace, which inherently is going to bring down the amount of points scored, the amount of shots taken, all this other stuff. So when it comes to the way the game was versus the game is, give some credit, like give credit to both sides. Give credit to NBA players now who are extremely skilled. You have big men who are shooting threes. You got guys who can do, triple crossovers behind the backs. Give it, the Kyrie's handle, someone like Russ who has a better handle than he's ever been given credit for. Like Russ having a great handle, some of these really skilled guards in today's game. Obviously Steph, what he's done with the three-point shot. But give a little bit of love to the guys who just had to go to work and get the shit beat out of them to play NBA basketball. Like, both sides could have some valid points, right? So HardFoul Radio, hour 2 is coming shortly. We are back with hour 2 of HardFoul Radio. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. It is, of course, the top of hour 2 on a Monday, which means it is time for HardLeft, HardRight, when we take this opportunity to look at the things that we said the previous week, and we establish what was the most correct and what was the most less correct. I don't really want to say wrong. Am I really ever that wrong if you think about it? I just have some passionate opinions. I don't think that's so, just my own opinion, So let's start with this. And this, unfortunately, we had kind of a choppy schedule last week, so we're going off some slightly older takes. So starting with HardLeft, I really was sold on the Nuggets were going to pull this out. I thought the Nuggets, after they went up 2-1, I really thought they were going to beat the Thunder. Now, and this kind of goes with my frustration of why I feel the whistle is just one-sided with the Thunder, is because by all accounts, in my opinion, the Thunder should not be getting a lot of the calls they get, SGA specifically. And I made the point, I think if prime James Harden got these calls, he would have had, his playoff record would look much different. Tony will push back on me, and I'll give him that, that they said, nah, he still wouldn't have won the title, but he would have a better playoff record than what he has. And unfortunately, the Aaron Gordon injury didn't help, but that was only Game 7, and they got killed in Game 7 anyway, so I don't know if that would have mattered too much. But Jokic, to me, who I have had on this, I probably speak incorrectly about him. I've had him on this pedestal where I think he is going towards top 10 ever player status. And I still feel that way. He's that good, that great at basketball. But I do have to acknowledge that, yeah, Jokic, I need one more truly great playoff run. Now, I was talking about him because I thought this was going to be the run. I thought he was going to knock out the Thunder. I thought they had a chance to get revenge on the Timberwolves for last year. And I thought truly he could have gone back to the finals. And in the East, because the Celtics would have been knocked out, I would have given him a chance. And the OKC, I think that he could have beaten any of the other teams left in the playoffs. Where I'm wrong, though, is I need to slow down a little bit on him. Yes, I think he is one of the best players I've ever seen in real time. Like, he is just amazing at the end of basketball. But to start passing the guys who I truly think he's in competition with, you do need to start winning some more hardware. You've already had enough MVPs. Cool. You got 3 of them. We know how great you are. You potentially might win a 4th, depending on how voter fatigue is always a thing, and we'll see how that plays out the remainder of his career. But one more, like, really strong playoff run, if not damn near, you need to have a title. Because now look at the guys who are in that top 10 space. Steph has 4, right? Like, you got to get to that. Shaq has 3. Shaq has 4, I'm sorry. Steph and Shaq both have 4. Tim Duncan has 5. Hakeem Olajuwon has 2. And these are just the guys towards that bottom end of the top 10. You start getting into the high end. Magic has 5. Bird has 3. Kobe's obviously got 5. LeBron's got 4. Mike's obviously got 6. If you were one of those people that really think Jokic could get that high on the list, I don't necessarily think he can crack the top 5, but teach their own. If these are the guys you're going to be in competition with, and I've got to be fair to myself here. I've got to be fair to the way that I talk, the way that I discuss players, because the fun thing about leaving a digital footprint is people can always go back and show, hey, you lied about this. Hey, you weren't honest about this player. And they will 1,000% throw that back at you. So Jokic, where I was wrong, is I was already kind of classifying him as this top 5 guy, top 6 guy. I'm like, hey, I was discussing him as if he had already won it. And I did think they were, this another part of it, I thought they were going to beat the Thunder. After Game 3, I was convinced. I was like, oh, he has it. Because the way he was handling end-of-game situations, unique's not the right word, but it stood out. It looked special. It looked different. It looked like somebody who just has there's a handful of guys who have mastered the game of basketball. They just know so many scenarios. They know how to handle themselves in all of these scenarios. I say this with football. Brady just mastered defense. I say this with any great quarterback. They've just seen every defense. They've mastered it. They know what they're doing. And they might make a mistake, but it's not from a lack of knowledge or lack of experience. And that's what Jokic looks like playing basketball, especially in the end-of-game scenarios. He just looks like he has figured it out. Nothing surprises him. He is the best at – he's still the best player in the sport despite this run. But you do, if you want to separate yourself from your current contemporaries, Giannis, KD, these guys who we also acknowledge are in that probably 10 to 20 range, all-time greats, but only have the one title. Durant has two, but we all know we look at Durant's a little different. You gotta win another title. And so I thought the Nuggets were going to win. I thought Jokic was going to make a case for firmly being in that top 10, 11 space all time. But not only did he not win, you got to get at least one more title before you're ready to go and put yourself in that top 10 class. So Nikola Jokic, I prematurely put in the top 10. I prematurely put the Denver Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals. I was wrong on both accounts. So my hard left for the week, Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets, did not go as far as I thought they were going to. I have also been, just as a side note, hard left. I said this a little bit on group chat yesterday. I've been a kiss of death for almost every single series that I've picked. To the point of I'm questioning now if, like, do I know how to pick a basketball game? I said the Bucks over the Pacers. Well, we all know how that went. I said the Clippers over the Nuggets. We all know how that went. I said the Clippers over the Clippers didn't make it to the second round. I had Detroit is obviously going to upset New York. Best upset pick in the first round. We all know how that went. Thank the Lord that the Timberwolves are still in the playoffs, because they're like my last hope of, okay, I could still potentially get half the finals teams, right? Which counts for something. And if they win the whole thing, okay, look at me. But man, I've had a rough time picking some NBA series this year. So shout out to me for being the kiss of death. Excuse me. Then going over to HardRight, and this I'm taking credit for the last however many days it's been of, I feel like I have changed the narrative on the Denver Broncos. So all offseason, all I heard, and again, I watch a lot of ESPN, unfortunately. I watch a lot of FS1. I watch a lot of The Ringer, PFF. And all offseason, there was this really weird reputation about the Broncos of like, yeah, they had a good season, but Bo's gonna slip. The Raiders are gonna be better because now they got Pete Carroll and Geno Smith and Ashton Genty, and it was all this. It just felt like everything was negative, and I didn't understand it. I said, are we watching the same sport or the same team? A guy who we've seen Sean Payton's record with quarterbacks and his career and reputation with them. We just saw a defense that was top 5, lead the league in sacks, have the defensive player of the year. Just add in Hufanga, who was an all-pro, Dre Greenlaw, who not an all-pro, but a very high-end linebacker. Yes, both having dealt with some injuries, which could obviously be a factor. But 2 high-end defenders. Got a guy who, by a lot of accounts, was considered either the best or second-best corner in the draft. They haven't lost anybody in free agency. Why is this the team that now people are like, well, actually, I don't think they're as good as they think they are. Oh, I think they're going to backtrack. They're not going to be nearly as good. Oh, this is the team. There were a bunch of people talking about this is the team to bet on to fall under their win-loss total. And then over the last few weeks, I'm hearing more and more, hey, man, Denver could be a 11, 12-win team. Hey, man, Denver could actually be the best team in that division. If Bo takes another step, and this defense is still as great, and if it's even better than it was last year, you've got Cortland Sutton, Mims came on at the end of the year. And I'm talking about reputable reporters. Not just people saying, and not just me being a fan going, oh, yeah, they're going to be this, they're going to be that. No, reputable reporters saying, hey, start looking at this Broncos team. Hey, start looking at what they got going on. Hey, start looking at what they're doing over there in Denver. Because trust me, I'm going to be in insufferable. Y'all think Nick Wright is bad with the Chiefs. I'm going to be insufferable if Denver is an 11-12 win team and wins the division. Because that's what I'm staking my flag on right now. I think they do win the division at 12 games. We'll have official predictions here in a few weeks. But I think the Broncos are the season they are heading for is going to be special. It's going to be a great time in Colorado. Also, I think the division itself just isn't as good as everybody wants to say. I think it's tough, but I don't think it's going to be this super juggernaut that I don't think the Chargers and the Chiefs are quite what everybody is putting them out to be. But just the last couple of weeks, I've heard some, again, I'm always going to put the flag for Denver. I thought Denver could have won the division like 2 of the first 3 Mahomes years, and that's obviously in hindsight is insane. But what they're doing and what more people are now starting to pick up on some steam of what they got going on, watch out for the Broncos, man. Oh, man, a lot more to talk about when we come back. This is HardFoul Radio. Be back momentarily. I'm joined, as always, by the Father. Will is in the building. How we doing, man? This is HardFoul Network, a place for people of all different interests to come and enjoy their favorite kind of content. Let's meet the people behind said content. First off is the hardest working forehead in sports media. Justin gives his best takes Monday through Friday, 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. Yeah, that's too early for sports, but here we are. Are their rookies good? Are their free agents contributing to the team? Are they well coached? That's when those kind of conversations actually matter and start to show up and mean something. Justin never had a huge passion for school or learning, but sport stuck with him at an early age and uses his 20 years plus as a fan to give you his best insight. Joining him on A&M is Matt. Matt made the mistake of showing Justin how to use a camera.
Like the idea that, like, in a fight, the Toki Toki no Mi is make it someone else's problem fruit. I have magma, I'm unstoppable, and you're like, bet. To the future.
Matt gives his well thought out and informed opinions on your favorite anime and manga and includes his humor and various social takes. May or may not come with sarcasm. Jake is also joining for A&M. Jake has read more bad manga than just about anyone. He is well informed on the genre as a whole, and with his creative way of speaking, he can let you know if your favorite series is actually good or not. Next up is our favorite father. Will is one of the co-hosts on the group chat podcast. You can tell what city he is from the second he starts talking.
Calling somebody the best offensive player in the game of basketball and shitting on him. That's crazy. I would hate to be like really shitting on somebody.
Will is clever, quick-witted, and has a special tone when he speaks. Will is one of the best when it comes to telling you what you need to hear. Last but not least, the president of the Mina Kimes fan club, Tony. Tony's our other co-host on the group chat. He is also our behind-the-scenes show writer.
Thing that Kendrick says in this song, from Drake liking minors to Drake running a sex trafficking ring to he should die. He told Drake's mom, I think the nigga you gave life to should die.
Without Tony, we would be talking in circles with no end. He is also our social media manager. A man of many talents, some might say, and many opinions. Everybody here contributes heavily to the product that we put out. This network has been a dream of Justin's for years. To be able to do it with the people close to him makes it even better. I believe people have multiple interests and are more than just sports fans or anime fans. This network is a place for people of varied interest to come and hang out and embrace being a part of a diverse community. Please show some love and subscribe to not only the YouTube channels, but also find us on Apple Music, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. HardFoul Radio, every single morning, Monday through Friday, 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. Group chat podcast, Sunday morning, 10 a.m. release time. A&M, every Friday morning, 7 a.m. Please. And we are back, man. Go check that out. Excuse me. Go check out not only HardFoul Radio for those of you listening, but go check out Group Chat. Go check out A&M. A lot of work being done here. Appreciate y'all so much for tuning in. Appreciate y'all so much for showing love to the clips. Appreciate y'all for just rocking with us. So, two things here. I want to take what makes a team likable or hateable, right? So the LA Dodgers are, by all accounts, the best team in Major League Baseball. No, they don't have the best record as of this exact moment. That belongs to Detroit. But the Dodgers are the best team, right? Like, we know this. Like, Shohei, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, their pitching staff. Like, it's the best team in baseball, right? But they don't feel like other best teams. Normally when a team becomes dominant, and especially in baseball, when a team is dominant because they can spend more than other teams because there's no salary cap, it's really easy to dislike them. The New York Yankees, who have historically been the big spenders of baseball, are easy to hate. Whether you are a fan of a team in the division or not, they're just an easy team to hate. This Dodgers team is not a hateable team. They have figured it out. Have players that are cool, fun, and exciting to watch. Shohei, especially now because we're probably going to get Shohei just faced live batters So we're most likely going to get two-way version of Shohei again before the season's over. Mookie Betts, one of the most exciting players to ever put on a baseball uniform. Freddie Freeman, who's just a great guy, great story, great player. Like, all of these combine to make somebody who's not hateable. They're not easy to dislike. You don't point your finger and go, oh, well, they're bad for baseball. They're just a fun team to watch. Even in a World Series last year, where it was Dodgers-Yankees, which should be the two easiest teams to hate, people were rooting for the Dodgers. People like the Dodgers. It is this really hard thing to get to where you can be dominant and not be hated. The Patriots, who, by all definition, yes, if you want to go back and go Deflategate and you want to go Spygate and however you feel about those, I'm not really here to argue about that. But the Patriots thing was, they just did all the basic stuff better than everybody else for 20 years. And we hated that as a fan base, as an NFL fan base. Like, we hated the Patriots. Hated them. The Kansas City Chiefs. Very easy to dislike team. And that's with Mahomes, who is a likable personality at standalone. That's with Travis Kelce, who's got a likable personality standalone. That's with Chris Jones, who doesn't really talk much, but is if you enjoy watching guys be dominant, like Chris Jones for the majority of his career has been dominant. Like, they have Andy Reid, who I think is more likable than Bill Belichick at face value. People hate the Chiefs, myself included, but I root for a team in the division, so it doesn't count nearly the same. But people, it's easy to hate the Chiefs. It was easy to hate the Yankees. It was easy to hate the Patriots. These teams that are dominant, that have either... And it doesn't really matter what they did to become dominant. It was the Patriots just doing all the little things correct. Was it the Yankees throwing more money than everybody? Or was it the Chiefs just having the best quarterback maybe ever? There's a whole bunch of different reasons how you get to this point. But the Dodgers have done the miraculous thing and they have avoided being the most hated. And that's a skill, truly in of itself. That is a skill. So it's impressive to me. And we're going to be talking, Tony's going to be joining us tomorrow to talk more baseball. We're going to have a large amount of baseball talk now on Tuesdays. Tony will be joining us on Tuesdays, and depending how we do it, Tuesdays and Thursdays going forward. But it's impressive. And they're just a bunch of guys. Like, they're just guys that are really good at what they do. They're fun to watch. They don't give you that same feeling of, man, I can't stand these guys. They're just good. And so... I was trying to find, I was like, what do you dislike about baseball right now? And maybe baseball is just unique in this, right? Because I'll give you the reverse end of the Dodgers. That's the Colorado Rockies, who still, despite having the worst record in Major League history through 52 games now at this point, or second worst, I'm sorry, there's like a team from 1904. It's the thing about baseball. Sometimes there's a team that you literally did not know existed with some funny name, like they'll be like the Kentucky Cardinals. And it's like, oh yeah, back in 1910, the Louisville Fish Trotters. And it's like, what is that? Besides them, for any team after the Great Depression, worst record ever. Almost 30,000 people a night are going to these games. That's insane to me. Baseball has a team that is off to a all-time horrific start. And they have better attendance than... They're not even in the bottom 10 in attendance. I think they just slide into the top half. Almost 30,000 people a night wanted to go see that. And we don't hate the Dodgers. Now, maybe that's the thing. Maybe it's because there's so much bad baseball. And there's a lot of bad baseball teams right now. Like, the Orioles have imploded. The Rockies are awful. The White Sox are, weirdly enough, awful. But it's still way better than they were last year. So we'll take it. Like, there's a lot of bad baseball going on. And with that, with all the bad baseball, maybe that's why people are gravitating towards the Dodgers. Because at the end of the day, and this does work in all sports, even though I don't want to admit it, we need somebody to be really good to show us how this sport is played at a high level, because you guys have heard me say it a million times, that is the whole gladiator aspect. Let me see the superhuman aspect. Let me see the guys who are just otherworldly at this, right? So the Dodgers somehow avoided being hated, while the Rockies somehow have fans still. So don't worry, Rockies fans. Football season's starting soon. Don't worry. Now, I'm going to start throwing this out in the air, too, and I'm going to start sprinkling this in. NFL predictions coming out next week. I'm sorry, not next week, apologize. NFL predictions will be coming out after the NBA Finals. So I still have a few more weeks to really sink my teeth into this. The thing that I've been flirting with, and I don't know if I'm willing to commit yet, is the Kansas City Chiefs being third place in the AFC West. I think this is absolutely a possibility. So I think, I'm standing on it. Denver's going to be the best team in the division. I think defensively, I think the offensive line is the best in the division. Their defense is clearly the best in the division. I think if any of their receivers, I think if Cortland Sutton and Marvin Mims have seasons even comparable to what they did last year, but Denver's a 12-13 win team, I think people are going to look at the receiving core much different. I think Evan Ingram is going to help make the tight end room respectable. And, excuse me, RJ Harvey and the running back situation is going to be much better. Here's the problem with Kansas City. Yes, you could say, well, we have Mahomes, and that is the biggest force multiplier on the planet. And for an individual game, it is 1,000%. I'm not taking that away from him. But for a season, it is proven over the last few seasons, he is not. And even if he is still in that top tier force multipliers, which I believe him to be, so is Joe Burrow, and his team didn't make the playoffs. Joe Burrow, they put out the stats. Yeah, I saw it yesterday. It was the highest passer rating while trailing. And Joe Burrow had a 120. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. He spent the whole season trailing. That was just his passer rating. He was down in every single game. Did you watch the Baltimore games? I did. Did you watch the Bronco game when he was trailing? I did. He was trailing all season. They didn't make the playoffs. Of course his passer rating was high when they were trailing. That's all he did last year. The Chiefs have two real fundamental issues that I don't think they've addressed. Not addressed in a meaningful way. I think they are banking on with their offensive line. They signed a backup tackle, Trent Williams, backup out of San Francisco. We have no idea if he's going to be good or not. And then they took Simmons in the draft out of Ohio State, who, yes, and I hope Simmons has success. I don't want to see someone's career end just off the strength of an injury. But there's no guarantee he's going to be ready and be a good offensive tackle this year, especially coming off that injury. So we're taking Trent Williams backup and an injured college player and saying, you go protect maybe the most valuable asset in sports in Patrick Mahomes. Okay. Their defense. I've been on it for the second half of last season. Chris Jones is declining. Chris Jones is a first ballot Hall of Famer, the notable defensive player on a dynasty. Great player. By all accounts, great guy. Awesome, right? But he was declining. Go look at his numbers last year and look at how he don't just look at his numbers, because I've been anti-stats all show. Go look at him play. When Chris Jones is Chris Jones, you can't double team him. It doesn't matter. You could double team Chris Jones. In some situations, if you felt you had a good enough interior lineman, you could even single coverage him on plays. That hasn't been true the last 5 years. That was true last year. Trent McDuffie, yes, a great young player. Started to show slips, started to show cracks. Was not Trent McDuffie, who had an argument, was an all-pro player 2 years ago. That argument doesn't exist last year. Their receiving core. Oh, they got all these fast guys. Look at Mahomes' numbers the last couple years, even as they've had other fast guys. Since Tyreek Hill, this is a primarily dink and dunk offense. Yeah, we know Mahomes can rip it 50 yards, so we're never going to associate him with dink and dunk. But the way their offense has had to play, produce, put up points, and their running back situation is running back by committee. And it's only really boosted off the fact of, you have 15 at quarterback, and that scares enough defenses into going, okay, you got to give up the run to some degree. And Kelsey, we know, is on literally his last legs. So where did they improve? Is it because they brought back Nick Bolton and paying him even more money? Is that why they're better? Is it because where is the Chiefs' improvements? And we know where they're declining. And Jeff Schwartz, who follows Kansas City, former Kansas City player, is I think by all accounts, Kansas City fan. He said this in his draft preview, and I thought this was really interesting because no one's taken this. He said, everybody paid attention to Kansas City's offensive line getting dominated. He said, I looked at it and said, well, their defensive line didn't get any pressure either. So we know their offensive line got blown up because we saw Mahomes get hit a bunch, but their defensive line get almost no pressure on Jalen Hurts. So O-line, not as good, trying to replace with injuries. D-line, replacing, you have a lesser Chris Jones, who is still going to be a Pro Bowl level D tackle. I'm not saying Chris Jones has fallen off a map, but he is no longer the guy who was talked about in comparison to Aaron Donald. Your corners aren't as good. Your linebacker just resigned, making it more expensive. Where did the Chiefs improve? Unless you just think, and some Kansas City fans, specifically a certain analyst on FS1 believes, if you just think what the Chiefs are is what they'll be the entirety of Mahomes' tenure. And let's be clear about this. Besides exactly Tom Brady, who kept the Patriots in Super Bowl contention, in playoff relevance, and long runs every year that he was there, plus went to Tampa and won a Super Bowl. Unless you are Peyton Manning, who was 12-plus wins every single year for the Colts, then went to Denver, had 4 years, got to the Super Bowl twice before his arm fell off. There's no other guy, and Joe Montana, who are the other even all-time great quarterbacks? Aaron Rodgers had years under 500, not make the playoffs. Joe Burrow, a contemporary of one of the great quarterbacks in the NFL, he's only made he's missed the playoffs more than he's made it, and he's been to a Super Bowl. So there is not this. I know we want to say Mahomes is already this, and because he's been that the first part of his career. The Mahomes comp that no one wants to say because he's already accomplished more. But where Cam Newton was in his career up until it just went downhill, he started out the gates on fire, was a rookie of the year, got an MVP. He was amazing. Now, Cam's run is not as long as Mahomes. I understand that. It's the difference between 5 years to 7 years. But for 5 years, Cam was amazing. Amazing. And maybe if they win that Super Bowl, thankfully they didn't, if they win that Super Bowl, maybe Cam gets even more confidence and his trajectory goes even higher. And he continues to be great for a longer period of time. But Cam's peak was definitively in his 20s. We don't know that Mahomes' peak won't be in his 20s. We just assume, and people are like, oh, he's going to catch Brady in this, he's going to catch Brady in that. Brady's career is so amazing and astonishing because Brady had essentially 2 to 3 peaks. You had young Brady win 3 out of 4 Super Bowls. You had MVP Brady in the middle throwing 50 touchdowns to Moss. Then you had the 2 tight ends Brady. And then you got 40-year-old Brady who damn near won MVP again with the Bucs and got them to a Super Bowl. So Brady's longevity isn't just, oh, he played forever. There's 4 different eras of Brady and you go, which one is actually the best? And that's Mahomes' next test. We have seen version 1 of Patrick Mahomes. That was the super high-flying offense of Kansas City. Tyreek Hill, amazing player, all-time great. We saw version 2. Hey, let's slow it down. Let's be dink and dunk. Let's figure this out. Rely on the defense a bit more. Boom, got more Super Bowls. Great all-time player. Now, if you really want to be in the next set of conversations with, in my opinion, I think Peyton Manning got passed up too quick, but I'm not here to argue that. If you think it's just him and Brady, well, Brady had 4 peaks. So you're halfway there. That's a lot of football to justify getting the rest. Brady never lost his division when he was in New England. Think about that. When he was, 1 year he missed the playoffs, or the the odd year, 3 out of the 4 win Super Bowls. They had the one year they did miss the playoffs as defending champs, and then the injury year, obviously. Otherwise, Brady was automatic. Win the division, win 11, 12, 13 games, get to Super Bowls. Like, we need to see that next step, and I'm not sure Kansas City has the roster to do it currently, especially because they're doing the opposite of New England. Signing Nick Bolton is a very non-New England-esque move, and I don't love the way New England did business all the time, but you can't knock it historically for how much sense it made because, again, it kept getting them into the playoffs. So and some guys there. So a theme I always talk about is optimism. I said this before the break. When you're a sport, you know when strength of schedule actually matters? Strength of schedule actually matters to have those conversations when it's too late. Strength of schedule matters when it's the middle of the season, game 9, game 10, game 11, and it's like, okay, you're down the stretch strength of schedule. That matters because that's how the teams are actually playing that year. You find out, are their rookies good? Are their free agents contributing to the team? Are they well coached? That's when those kind of conversations actually matter and start to show up and mean something. When you say, well, they were bad last year. Okay, they were bad last year. What does that have to do with this year? If you believe at all that the team had a competent offseason, front office, players just get better, the Chiefs, during this dynasty run, that's one of the things that's flipped for them. Their offense, 3 years ago, when Mahomes was the MVP, you would have went into the season going, man, we're playing against a top-flight offense. You know when strength of schedule actually matters? And we are back to close it out here. So I have to address this because I was very vocal about it all offseason. Brock Purdy signs 5 years, $253 million. I've said I would have drafted Jackson Dart or one of the other quarterbacks potentially at 11 and just rolled the dice because I think the Niners their brain trust was so, in my opinion, I'm really high on the 49ers brain trust, right? I know the roster is starting to lose some of its peak, but the brain trust of the 49ers, Lynch, Shanahan, ownership, I just believe in them, right? Now, the problem with that is I was right and wrong at the same time. I would not have given Brock Purdy the money, which means that this could have been on HardLeft. But what I think made it a little more complicated is that I think my belief in the 49ers brain trust didn't actually go far enough. There's a handful of numbers that have come out about the Brock Purdy contract, and I like a lot of them. First off, he's the first quarterback that has signed these $250+ million deals that did not take up over 20% of the salary cap. He's at 19. Him being at 19 means it is only going to go lower and lower and lower. Well, sorry, the first of these guys besides Mahomes. Mahomes exactly his contract is so unique to what they're doing over there. I'm not using him as a comparison. But under 20% of the salary cap, he got a lot of it paid up front, which is the nice thing as your owner. This is the one thing owners can do to flex wealth that can help the team. Front load all these guys. You're seeing this with, I keep bringing this up, one of the best thing the Broncos are doing with Walmart's money is they are front loading contracts. Patrick Surtain, we're going to pay you, we're going to front load it. They're going to give Nick Bonito an extension, we're going to front load it. They're going to have Cortland Sutton an extension, they're going to front load it. It is better to front load these contracts because as you front load them, that means you're paying more money up front and it's less money against the salary cap. So, yeah. Now, it doesn't mean you're totally against the cap, obviously, because people are going to say it's the difference in what is fully guaranteed money versus what is upfront fully guaranteed. And this is a difference because people are going to go to the Cleveland contract and go, well, his is fully guaranteed, but he's still this against the cap. Yes, you still count against the cap, but it's different on what you pay upfront versus what you're paying throughout the year. So, with that being said, the ability to maneuver this, still have trust in their front office that, yes, their last couple of drafts have not been great. A lot of that I am chalking up to the Trey Lance trade. When Trey Lance was traded, or was traded for, that cost them 3 first-round picks. Like, that's a lot of draft capital. And at the time, they just didn't feel like they needed it. They still had, obviously, Bosa, Solomon Thomas, Warner, Hufanga, Greenlaw, Ward. Like, they had so many guys. Trent Williams, Debo, Brandon Ayuk, Kittle. They were so loaded, they didn't need a first-round pick to come in and play because the reality was a first-round pick wasn't going to step in and play. That roster was just loaded. That roster is now less loaded. Still has some high-end guys. You got Warner, you got Kittle who resigned. You still have Brandon Ayuk. Let's see how he turns out. Christian McCaffrey. Let's see how he bounces back. Him and Ayuk, let's see how they bounce back from injury. But to keep Brock Purdy under 20%, still give him what he wants, still give, like, this team believes in him 100%. The same way I feel like Denver feels about Bo Nix, the 49ers absolutely believe in Brock Purdy, even if they probably know in their heart of hearts he's not Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, Burrow. Fine. You don't have to be those guys in this situation. So to get under 20% of the salary cap, that is a brilliant move by John Lynch and the 49ers think tank. And if they continue to draft well, which they have, again, these last few years, because the Trey Lance trade wasn't great, but look at their draft history before that. That's how they got this super stacked roster. And it wasn't just first round picks. Kittle's not a first rounder. Warner, I believe, was a second rounder. Like, this team and this organization can draft exceptionally well, and they kept their quarterback money underneath that 20%, which is huge, especially going forward, because you're probably, unless you think Brock is going to turn into the guy, the top 5-esque player, he might not ever get another 5-year, $250 million contract. So if you got to spend it the one time, go big. This was a really well thought out, really well done contract they got done with Purdy. So yes, I was wrong about the contract, but maybe I should have just believed in the 49ers brass even more than I already do, because they kind of nailed the perfect quarterback contract. I hope you're watching, Broncos, just in case in a couple of years you got to do the same thing. Neither here nor there. Just saying. Oh, man, with that being said, appreciate everybody, as always, for tuning in. Have a